failed you. When I started this channel, I wanted to make something that proved that anyone could learn how to mod or do basic repairs, even if you're not like an engineer or have a background in any of this. But recently, a couple of you guys said, you don't even know how to order a PCB or a 3D print and I was like, oh my God, I kind of just skipped over all of that, didn't I? So I am your cool Uncle Marissa, and I am here to give you a brief overview of how to order things from a fabricator. So that is PCBs, 3D printing, CNC machining, which is, imagine it's like 3D printing but with metal. So that way you can make a lot of these projects that I work on my channel something that you can also work on. Things like the Gameboy Pocket Color, things like the GBASP, like the Frog Boy Color, which, spoiler, just as a disclaimer, if anyone's here for like super detailed definitions and meaning and reasons and the science behind things, you're in the wrong place. I don't know. I just know enough to do things. I'm like an arts and humanities person. I kind of stopped with the science and math and stuff post high school. Well, kind of, I guess, in high school, but I'm not gonna explain it. If you don't know the like British system of education, I'm not gonna explain that in this video. But yeah, let's go take a look. We're just gonna see, how do we get a PCB printed without messing it up? How do we get 3D prints, and how do we decide like what we need? And how do we get CNC machining done? And how do we pick like how we get it colorful, and which method of coloring do we choose, and etc, etc. So let's hop on the computer and take a look. All right, so for the purposes of this video, we're going to focus on using PCBWay. If you know how to use PCBWay, you should be able to use the other service providers as well. But the reason I want to use PCBWay is not just because we worked together in the past on videos, but also they just have a lot of options. Their quality for 3D printing and stuff is really stellar. And finally, a lot of folks who have projects that are available to print, so to speak, tend to partner with PCBWay, so you do have to order those directly from them. And those are the kinds of projects that I'm going to be using as examples in today's tutorial, walkthrough, whatever you call it. But I do also want to show some other options. So you might have heard of JLC PCB. JLC is also a China-based fabricator. They also do 3D printing as well as PCB printing and CNC machining, but their quality, I think, is a little less good than PCBWay. They are cheaper, so it's kind of deciding what you're looking for. So in terms of 3D printing, I think if you're printing something just for utility, JLC should be fine. But if you're printing for aesthetics, then I would go with PCBWay. I've always gotten really fantastic prints from them. And again, this is only for if you have the files on hand. If you don't, if they're based in PCBWay's project hub, then you're obviously not able to use JLC. The other option that I use a lot is OshPark. OshPark is based in Oregon. They do purple PCBs, and they're really good for like prototyping and stuff. Yeah, they have a black version now too, and you're able to do some different things like flex boards, which are more expensive, and you know, everything is ENIG, which is awesome. And ENIG is gold. ENIG is something that does not tarnish over time or oxidize the way that other finishes can. And that's important because, for example, if you're ordering a board which has buttons, for example, if the pads oxidize over time, your buttons are no longer going to make contact, and so you're kind of screwed. And OshPark, there are some folks who have their projects sitting there as well, such as this battery container for Gameboy Color games that take batteries by HDR. And you know, usually they have information here. For example, boards should be ordered with the flex option, and you just go to actions, order board, you make sure you understand, And then you have your options here. So you can see it's really cheap and the minimum order quantity is really low. So for this, we have to pick Flex. So that comes out to $9.60. We go to checkout, and that is it. That's it for this. And they do offer free shipping in the US as well. So that's OshPark. And so let's go to PCBWay. The first thing that we'll do is going to be the simplest thing. So there are some community projects like Froggo Customs, Frogboy Color, where the ordering is almost as straightforward as OshPark. So we'll see on the right-hand side here, it says only PCB, or PCB and assembly if you want PCBWay to put it together for you. We're going to focus on only PCBs on this, and then you just hit add to cart. And you see that the options that you can pick are very limited. So for surface finish, we would ideally pick Enig. That's going to make it more expensive. I mean, you could technically pick Hassle for this because it does take tactile switches, which means since you're going to be soldering the switches on, then the contact being made with your membranes doesn't matter because it's going to be switches that are creating that bidding. But I recommend picking Enig just for durability and things. And then solder mask is basically the color of the board, the majority color. And so you see PCBWay has a lot of different options, and different options are different prices. Yellow tends to be a little delicate in the experience of folks I've heard from, so just take that as you will. But yeah, see, so purple jumps it up to $146. Green is cheaper, $124. And then if you end up requesting colors like pink and stuff, that drives the price up way more. Silkscreen is basically the writing on it. So white, yellow, none. Usually the colors that you're able to pick are the ones that will show up. So for example, if we pick black, our silkscreen options are white, yellow, but if we pick white, it's black and yellow. And they also recently have this UV printing option. It's still in beta, and you can pick single-sided on the top, bottom, or double-sided. That will also considerably increase the price. And yeah, so there are some things, for example, like edge connector. If you wonder, like, what is that? Or like the thickness of immersion gold, what do I do that? So usually they will tell you in the GitHub, if not the project page, everything that you need to know. So if we go back to here, edge connector, it's set on no and no, because you're not connecting it to anything. So you don't need a connector on the edge, if that makes any sense. And yeah, everything else is there. So this is like a super easy way of doing this. So let's get rid of that, and let's see what if we want to do our own PCB, upload our own PCB. So for this one, I'm going to use the Gameboy Pocket Color by Bucket Mouse, Mousebite Labs, as an example. So I've built this on my channel as well, and it's putting the components to make a Game Boy Pocket act like a Game Boy Color. So Mousebite Labs, he does have the file available. So we downloaded the Gerbers, and then you can see that the board characteristics, he describes them here. So he says it should be 2 layers, thickness should be 1 millimeter, surface finish should be Enig, and just like I was saying, you can do Hassle if you're installing tactile buttons, because yeah. And then sometimes they'll give you a note of what to add in the notes. And so Mousebite Labs is telling us when ordering this, add the file milling.gbr contains outlines for plated slots. Please add plated slots on the PCB according to this layer. Now, I would definitely order from his Etsy unless you want to order a ton, but you know. And you can also buy them from his project page as well. Let me just double check. Oh, great. So it does the same thing as if you were to upload it, but I want to upload it from the beginning just so we can see what that looks like. Okay, so we're on the PCB page and we want to hit just quote now, and we'll go to quick order PCB, and then you'll have the option to upload your file. So we're going to click that and then upload the Gerber file that we downloaded. Once that's uploaded, you get some images of them. You can click on the online Gerber viewer as well if you want to take a look at it. Yay! Okay. Otherwise, again, minimum order quantity is 5. And so we can reference the GitHub. So layers 2. And we have layers 2. Okay, material, you don't need to worry about that. You're basically always going to want the already selected FR-4. And you can leave this as it is as well. And then we want to see thickness. So he said for thickness, it should be 1 millimeter. So we're gonna roll this back to 1 millimeter. Everything else we should be able to leave as is. Solder mask, again, is the color of the board. So we can leave that on green, whatever. And silk screen is the writing on the board. You can also always hover over these question marks and they can show you what those are. Again, edge connector we don't need. Whenever you pick hassle, by the way, go ahead and just pick with lead. It's just easier to deal with. But let's do Enig because I personally do not like tactile buttons on these things. And then everything else we can leave it as is. Now here it says other special requests at the bottom. So we can go back and copy the note from Bucket Mouse and paste it here. Now, these are some other options. Keep in mind, I've never used these, but just so you know what they are. SMD stencil. So if you want to have a stencil and put it over the PCB and then put solder paste over it so it makes your life easier, you can order it here. Generally, folks who use the stencil will do it if they're doing bulk builds. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you don't need it. And then assembly services, you can check that as well. And ask them how many you want to assemble and stuff like that. Assembling the Game Boy Pocket Color from PCBWay is a little silly because it uses parts from a Game Boy Color. So you would still need to do quite a bit of soldering in order to get it all finished. So if you did want this, I would suggest contacting someone like Jack Makes or something to just build you one. But anyway, I've not tried their assembly services, but what I do know is that they do change. They have to look at your order and then kind of decide on the price from there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And then you see on the right hand side, you have the build time, you have express build times. So we're just gonna have it on regular. And then there's a variety of shipping costs. USPS is always the cheapest. Okay, and then so we say save to cart. Again, agree with that. And then we see in the cart, it says subject to audit. So they review basically every order. And especially if you've done something like UV printing, if it's a custom finish, this happens a lot with 3D printing and CNC, or the PCB assembly like we were talking about, your price will definitely go up. By how much, who knows, you'll find out. But yeah, so I'm gonna remove this. All right, so now that we're done with PCBs, let's look at 3D printing. Okay, so we're gonna look at the GBASP for both 3D printing and CNC because we have both of those options. So here we have the midsection and the top shell. Let's go ahead with the top shell. Let's put that in our cart by clicking the cart, and it immediately takes us to the 3D printing. Quantity. For 3D prints, you can generally get away with ordering one. If it's affordable, I usually order more than one just because I don't want to be stuck if I damage it or something. And so we have our different options: resin, nylon, PLA, ABS. You can click through these and click show material description, and it kind of tells you like what they're good for. For example, polycarbonate offers accuracy, durability, stability. That's high strength, it's high accuracy, but it doesn't have any surface finishes. So that means they won't paint it for you or anything like that. So you see in this, it's like a kind of a little off white, I would say. You're kind of stuck with that, right? You can do black as well, translucent, black, translucent, but you're stuck with these colors. Generally for these Game Boy projects, for the Gotcha, for the Frog Boy color, if you're going to go with 3D printing, they generally go with resin. Now, so with resin, we have the options are just like the different colors and kind of stuff. So we have the standard white material, there's a black material, there's transparent, which is very popular. And then there's just different shades. And again, like if you click on material description, it will tell you more. I obviously haven't tried all of these, so you can always ask, and these creators are very open, so you can always ask like, hey Joseph, I want to order the GBASP. Do you think it will be okay if I order it in power dark black? And I'll probably say, yeah, I don't see why not. But in terms of what I have used from these, I have used the standard white material and gotten it spray painted. I've used transparent quite a bit. And I used Somos Ledo for the middle part of the GBASP aluminum edition because of the fact that it says like high toughness, heat resistant and stuff. To be honest, I don't think it was super different though than the standard white material. But anyway, let's go with transparent. And you can do a transparent spray varnish, which is kind of like, yeah, what it sounds like, or matte diffuse, which will give it a bit of a more frosty finish. And if you want a frosty finish though, just go with translucent instead of transparent, unless I guess that's too frosty for you. I don't know. And then for surface finish for transparent resin, there is dyeing. Now, I have heard that dyeing can slightly shrink the resin. I have not tried dyeing, but, and then you can also go and look at the Pantone library and pick a color from there and put in a custom Pantone color, which is really cool. If you want a solid color, I would go with standard white, and then you can choose spray painting, and they have matte paint and high gloss paint, and same thing. You can go find the Pantone color number and get it whatever color you want. There's also sanding available, electroplating available, and I don't think I've ever needed sanding. Everything's always nice and smooth from PCBWay. But if we look right now, it's $5, but let's say we want to spray paint it pink. It jumps up to $31. So surface finishes are quite expensive. All right, now, do your parts need to tap threads? That essentially, you know, when you screw in a screw and there's like steps inside it where they thread, does it need that? Generally, it will tell you in the materials if it needs that or not. And Does it need inserts? Again, no, these are things that the project will usually tell you. And then wall thickness risk taken. It means that, oh, it could break. We're not liable if it breaks. Again, if the project has been uploaded to PCBWay and they say that there is a risk, you want to generally accept that risk because it's probably already been acknowledged and it's probably already gone okay. This is a very thin project and I haven't had any of mine break. But I could see why that would be a concern, that they just want to make sure they're not liable. And then you pick whatever it is. I don't know, this for like legal reasons, or maybe it's for their own reasons. And yeah, that's it. And then you can submit that request. So what if we are doing metal? That's what CNC is. It's just the metal. Oh, youtube.com refused to connect. All right, so with this, it's kind of similar. We add it to cart. And with this one, it takes us to 3D printing again, but that's not what we want. So we're gonna click CNC machining, which is actually the first option. And we're gonna pick one. You can see CNC is so much more expensive off the bat. So it was $4 for resin, but it's $40 for aluminum. And this is like a very small project too. And this is something that I really suggest going with aluminum because, yeah. And then it has different types of aluminum. And again, we can show material description. But I went with like just the regular one, which is the default pick, which is 6061. Now, surface options. So we've got a few here. So anodized is the most popular for metal, and that is because it lasts, because you're kind of chemically bonding the paint to the metal. The only downside of this is you don't have the Pantone book to choose from anymore. This is it. This is like all your options. Boo. Like there's not even pink, there's rose gold. It's so sad. I like the green personally. I think the green is cute. Anyway, if you want to pick anodized, I would generally pick bead blast and anodized, because bead blasting means that they blast it with beads and it smooths it. This is brushed, which is another surface treatment. You can get bead blasted on its own as well. Then there's spray painting. I wouldn't really recommend spray painting with aluminum because it could chip off. Powder coating is stronger than spray painting. I've actually ordered this for an upcoming project, and we'll see what that looks like because I've never tried it before. Yeah, tons of other stuff. Spray plating, where you can chrome plate, galvanize. Does anyone else watch that guy on Instagram who's always like talking about Michael and his galvanized steel house? Again, detail sanding, smooth machining, tons of stuff that, like, honestly, I don't really know what it is. I think all you need to worry about is anodized and bead blast anodized, and possibly powder coat. I don't know, coming up. All right, and then again, do your parts need to tap threads? Again, that's something that will always be either here in the project description, or it will be on the GitHub. And because it doesn't say you need to tap threads, then I would just leave it no. Again, same with inserts. Surface roughness, it's kind of up to you. It looks like it doesn't really affect the price either, which is nice. And then for this, they also have like an inspection if you want them to double check to make sure that everything is as it should be. Again, I've never tried this. It's pretty expensive. Should be fine. And yeah, and then you submit the request. And as you can see, it is like submit request and not like pay for it, because they will possibly change the pricing. But yeah. And if you would like to get a little discount on your order and also help out the channel, my affiliate link is always in the description. Ooh, orange. They have orange now. Also, if you ever find something that's confusing on the PCB Way or Fabricator's website, you can always message them, because ultimately they want you to be a customer. They would rather you go through with your project, I'm pretty sure, than like leave and not give them any money. So if you ever hit a roadblock, like for example, just like this, like if I'm like, oh, but I really wanted like an orange PCB, but why isn't this letting me input or upload my Gerbers, then I can email them, just write a message here and like, help want pink. And sometimes what happened actually with the pink boards I ordered was I had gone ahead and uploaded them as a standard PCB, and then I think in the special request or something I had asked for pink, and then they basically gave me a new quote, which was like a billion times the original quote. That should be it. I'm not like a super technical person, so I don't have like a super technical explanation for most of all of this. This is just what works. So I hope this was easy enough to follow, and yeah, let me know if you have any questions, or let your rep know. Look, she's so nice. All right, I hope that was helpful. Sorry I hadn't done anything like this sooner. I don't know, it just didn't occur to me that it was necessary, but that was completely my bad. So I do hope that this will encourage you to go ahead and try getting your own PCBs fabricated, your own 3D prints made, your own CNC machined, if you have the money for the latter. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer, but just know you do not need to know like the ins and outs of everything in order to get started on a project. For example, if you're like, I want to make the Frog Boy color, Froggo Customs has like all the information you need in his GitHub on like materials and tolerances and any extra this and that you need to order. A lot of these makers have Discords where you can ask them basic questions like that, like, hey, how many layers should this board be? You didn't specify. Last but not least, when you are putting in an order with a PCB fabricator, 3D printer, etc., there is usually a person on the other side that is hoping you have a good enough experience to pay them and then come back and pay them again. So feel free to like ask them questions. They will help you. Don't be shy. If you want to know what's the difference between these two materials, you have a photo of this or that, and use Google as well. I know PCB Way has like a lot of pages where they show the different materials and what they look like, or for example, for the metals, they have the images of different finishes. Do your research on that. Feel free to reach out to people, ask for help. The person who has created the project is going to be the most valuable for things specific to the project, and the people who run the factory and run the customer service for that are going to be the most helpful for helping you understand the things that they provide. So this should be the building block, and go forth and mod. Also, a huge thank you to my Ko-fi supporters for June and July, I think. I'll put them, they're here, they're happening. So I'm gonna start putting them up on the screen instead of speaking them, because the rate of my videos coming out has been a little less consistent, especially with other stuff going on in my life, and I will record something and then by the time I post it, it's like 2 months later. So yeah, I don't want to not thank anyone. But yeah, you can buy me a coffee, you can buy stuff on my Ko-fi, you can access resources. Go check it out. We have a Discord as well. If this video was helpful, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I want to see if that actually works, because everyone says that, but I don't say that because I feel weird. I've been your cool Uncle Marissa, and don't forget, you are always welcome at Cool Uncle's house, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.